Hello everyone, Tyrone Shoes here. Today we're going to talk about pentatonic scales and mostly the relative major. Everyone knows the minor pentatonic, and all you rockers, that's what it's used for, but the same scales that you already know can be used for major keys. Perish the thought. Happy music. There are 5 of these, pretty well publicized. I will go over them briefly, and I will manipulate them by starting on the appropriate root. Now, the first one we all learn, and it's usually at this fret. Is normally called our A pentatonic or A minor pentatonic scale. It is not the blues scale. The blues scale has an additional note. We need to know that it's there, but we're not going to be discussing it today. But we are going to discuss how this same scale, used for all those blues licks in A, can be used for C major. And if we manipulate the scale by starting on the C instead of the A, this is what I call pattern 1. And for A, we'd start with our index finger on the A, but for C, we're going to start with our pinky. So it's going to sound like a happy, almost country scale. Notice I went back and got the A because you want to play all the notes that you can reach in any given area. In fact, for most of these patterns, the lowest note will not be the root, but you do have to know those notes are down there. So the same scale that we use for A, we can use for C, and it's true for all 5. Now the second box is going to sound like C because that is the lowest note. Now, if I wanted this to sound like an A scale, I'd start on my A. Notice I went from the A to the top all the way to the bottom and then back to the A, and it orients the scale to an A perspective. But we are here to emphasize the C perspective. Now notice I start each string with my first finger instead of going 2 and 4. The reason is because there is the blues note, and it's right there. There's also a nice arpeggio that's there as well, where if you're going 2 and 4, you're not going to get there, or it's going to be very difficult. So if I'm using the blues scale, I will be using my pinky stretched out there, and if I'm using 2 and 4, I won't be able to get there. So this song isn't going to use the pinky, or the blues note, I should say, but still, you want to be able to use it or not. The third pattern, if I'm starting on C, is going to be here. Start on the D string. If I were to start on A, it would be on the A string right there. But you always want to start and end on the root when you're practicing it as a scale. Now this third pattern that I just played doesn't appear in the solo that we're going to talk about, but all the rest of them do. Here's the fourth one, starting on C. Now, every blue moon I may do 2 and 4 if I know I'm not going to grab the blues note, but there's exceptions to almost everything. But most of the time, I'm going to play it that way. Pattern 5, I'll play it up here, but then I'll play it down an octave, probably be easier to see. it down an octave where it will appear in the solo that we're going to discuss. So those are the 5 relative to the key of C major. And we're going to do the solo from Let It Be, the album version, the one that's done on a Les Paul that's fairly well distorted. And I'm going to do this clean for our purposes because you can hear the notes better, and hey, if you can do it clean, you can do it with distortion. Okay, so this solo is also best if it's strummed, just like many of the other videos that I talk about keeping the right hand moving. And so here's the solo. That's about the right tempo. 1 and 2 and 3. Etc. So we've got the first lick after that little keyboard break, right? Okay, so it's a very Hendrixy type of thing. You bar 2 but hammer 1 right here on the 5th fret in the first pattern, and he's going to slide into the 5th pattern. Okay. 1 and 2 and 3. And then he slides back into the pattern 1 using the ring finger for both slides. 1 and 2 and 3. Now he stays in 1. 1 and 2 and 3. Slide. And now stay. The next lick is probably the trickiest lick in the solo. It starts right after beat 1, after this lick. And 4 and 1. So there's the lick. Now, this is a pedal steel kind of lick. We skip a string, we bend on the G, 1. We bend the D note to an E, and while the bend is being held up, we catch the C with our pinky, and then we let the bend down, 1. Right, followed by a hammer on from the 5th to the 7th fret. Now we do the same bend. It's similar pedal steel lick, but instead of the pinky, it's going to be index finger. Straight 8th notes. Okay, so together, 4 and 1. And the finish of that lick is it's a lot of notes, but it's actually quite easy. Two pull-offs, slide, hammer. Now, so he's been toggling between pattern 1 and pattern 5, and for the next section he's going to go into pattern 2. Now you just landed on this note, and 2. So that's the next section. 1 and 2. So a lot of time in pattern 2, and he's going to continue in pattern 2. But to get there, slide with your ring finger on the D string when he goes. Then you're right in pattern 1. Slide, jump, slide, jump, slide, and then pronounce that note. Give it some nice vibrato. Now, that lick sort of continues, and it's actually the same time as the other lick. It's 1 and 2. Right in this little 4-note box here. Now the next note is all the way up in pattern 4. 1 and 2, yeah. That's on the of 2. You're going to do an upstroke there. Again, this solo should be strummed. It's difficult to do really slow. Anyway, 1 E and 2 E and. Now I use my pinky, well actually all my fingers for that bend, because I like keeping my hand in position. But if you want to use your third finger, you may. I think it's more fingers is better for support. The wrist is how you bend anyway. So here it comes, and 2 E and. And that's the last lick. Okay, so and 2 E and. So that one is all on the B string, and that's the final note of the solo. The entire solo is in the pentatonic scale. The content of the solo is actually quite good considering there's only 5 notes. Now there's one section of notes, and it's a really cool lick, but the second half of that pedal steel lick, 1. That half, when he goes, is a little bit funny compared to the G chord. If you spell your chords, we have C, G, A minor, and F are the 4 chords. C, E, G, G, B, D, A, C, E, F, A, C. Well, over the G chord, it starts over the C chord. It goes C, G. The G chord right there, and the notes are E, A, and down to a D quickly, and a C. It's not very many G, B's, and D's, which is what you'd want over that chord. All the rest of them work when he goes. That's a C over a C. Right there is a G over a G. And that's an E over the A minor. And that's a C over the F. Those are all perfect. And then the beginning, 1. That's an E, a C, and back down to a lower E, C and an E over a C chord, which is perfect. And again, well, right here's the G chord, and the notes are E, A, E, bend down to D, and a C. It's a really kind of an odd collection of notes over that particular chord. Now, I don't want to presume to stomp on George's work. The solo feels terrific, and I probably would have left it there myself had I played it, because the rest of the solo is so good, but perhaps he could have gone 4 and 1. Right? So all I did was D, B, back to a D, A passing to a D, and land on the G. That's much more G-friendly collection of notes. And C. And you can, the rest is fine because we have this A note over the F and back to the landing on the C chord. The second half, C over C, again G over G, and then A over the A minor, Now the E over the F makes it a major 7, which works. Right, C over C again, and now right there lands on the G over the G chord, and then that C note. That's a little odd, but it works. And obviously lands on the C note over the C chord. So his batting average is really good. And again, if I'd played the solo, I would have left it there as well. But you know, guitar playing, rock guitar playing especially, has advanced a lot in the however long it's been, 40 years since that record has been done. And it's still amazing that with just the 5 notes, he did a pretty good job covering the changes. Now, as you go on in your guitar playing journey, you will look for other notes to play, but this is a wonderful solo to learn with just the pentatonic scale, and it's fine. It's a wonderful starting point for learning how to play lead guitar, and the pentatonic scales, no matter how far you advance, will always be an integral part of your guitar playing. You know, with all the fancy schmancy stuff that I do from time to time, I never forget my pentatonic scales, because everything is a tool. You know, there's a hammer, there's a saw, there's a screwdriver, and you won't use one tool when you really need another. So it wouldn't sound like Let It Be if he played a bunch of straight major scales. You know, certainly any jazzy licks, or doesn't matter if they, you know, mathematically fit or whatever. It's all about feel and emotion, and this solo really is a wonderful solo just as it is, even with the one weird lick over the G chord in there. So I hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.